I appreciate this. It's fun to get the chance to talk to everybody on a little bit more of an intimate setting and be the one to share some ideas. Uh, I just thought an interesting perspective would be you really can only ever share, and I think anybody only ever shares about their experiences and what they've realized. And it's interesting how two people can go through the same experience and have different perspectives on it. So um, I've actually just got to hit on some key words, but there are also key words that were part of important aspects of my life, primarily career. I mean, I was just certainly focused on career. As I was saying, and I'm thinking, no, well, it's pretty important aspects, like when my two children were born or when I got married or things like that. But I definitely kept this focused, career oriented, and again, like key words. My name is Ed DuCoin, based in Southern New Jersey, right outside of Philadelphia. I'm a partner of a company named Orpical, and I'll explain in a moment or two what that stands for. We are, we, most people think of us as a marketing and advertising agency, and we like to think that that's really where you're seeing the tip of the iceberg. We like to be known as a business consulting firm disguised as a marketing agency. And I know that sounds, fluffy and stuff like that. And it's kind of meant to be, because we tend to get involved in relationships and projects that are brought upon based on trust. And we've got a pretty neat background. I'll go through my background a little bit in this, and that's how those doors open. We don't walk in and say, oh, we're business consultants. But when you ask different types of questions compared to other maybe marketing agencies, it opens up opportunities. And then I've learned from day one, if somebody says, well, can you do that? It's like, yep, absolutely. And then we figure it out as we go. So first thing, some of the key words that I wanted to focus, talk about. The first one is focus. And I guess in this case, the lack of focus, because I graduated high school in 1983, and I was a bad student. A lot of people look at my resume and say, wow, you graduated from Wharton. And I'll get to that in a moment. And I did, and I'm proud of that. But the fact is, when I graduated high school, I applied to many very mid-level schools, good schools. And I'm not going to, say any school's better or worse, because it's definitely what you get out of it. But let's put it this way. Most of my friends, they were the safe schools, and I was getting rejected by the safe schools, and I got rejected by every school. And I'm thinking, whoa, this is, there's an issue here. And the reason was that at that same time, I had about 25 employees working for me. And so during the day, I had to get a hall pass to go to the bathroom, and I wasn't allowed to have a soda in my classroom. But at night, I was responsible for these people and making payroll and things like that. So I didn't have the focus on school because it really wasn't that important. So actually, instead of focus, it was lack of focus. So, Bill Gates, I have a saying on my wall that only with complete dedication and focus can you accomplish world-class things. And I think that that's a real problem for most people. Bill Gates, who is probably the most charitable person who has ever lived, actually, if you research him, in the early days or mid days of Microsoft, when he was a billionaire, he wasn't a billionaire 150 times over. He had a reputation of not being very charitable, but he said that time will come. I have to focus on building this company. So I was focused on building my little business, but I certainly wasn't focused on school, and the realization came to hit me in the face. So I ended up going to Camden County College, and the first day of my first accounting class, which was 3 hours long, I proudly walked in with a bag of chips and a soda. And the first 5 minutes, I cracked that soda up, and I'm old enough. It was those pull tabs, you rip that thing off. And I made it as loud as I could because I wanted the professor to hear me. And she didn't give a damn. And then I opened the bag of chips as loud as I could. Didn't give a crap. And about 20 minutes later, I just stood up and pushed my chair in and went to the bathroom. Didn't care. And at the end of that 3 hour class, we did more accounting in 3 hours than I did in 2 years of high school. And it hit me like a pile of bricks, is that wow, we're working at a pace that I can stay focused at. So I continue to run my business, but I was actually enjoying school for a change. I mean, the professors are there to help you. The ratio was really good, maybe 15, 20 to 1. And it was always cool as people dropped out, you had a better ratio of professor to student. And I learned from Camden County College what a great value community college is. So if anybody has anybody in your world that isn't sure what they want to do, or they don't quite can't afford a four-year school yet, blah, 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 their community colleges are an absolute gift to the United States. And it's a shame most people, not most, many people don't realize that. So what I discovered is that when I went to Camden County College and I pulled good enough grades, I could go anywhere, literally anywhere, because that's what community colleges are set up to do. I could get in NYU. I applied and was accepted. I could get into Drexel in Philadelphia, was applied and accepted. Now, these were schools, there's no way when I was graduating high school, I would have got in there. So Wharton had a business transfer program. I transferred 2 full years into Wharton, saved 40 grand at that time, and was able to graduate with a Wharton degree. So the first word was focus or lack of. The second word is when I think of community colleges, I think of education, because those professors are there to teach. When I think of Wharton, I think of prestige. That's the next word. However, it's hollow prestige. I learned nothing in Wharton. I learned absolutely nothing. You walk in a class and there's 120 kids with a professor who can really not speak English too well. I had a statistics class that I handed the paper in and said, I have no idea what we learned. I just don't know. I had another class, my last class at Wharton, I got whatever, I passed, but I got like a D. And I got a D because I went to the first class and the guy's name, I'm making this up, was like Richard Smith. And I didn't really connect the dots too well because let me use a different name, Richard and Dick. I'll say, because I think it was actually Robert.
I was going to say no dicks allowed.
Yeah, I know. So Robert and Bob. So on the syllabus, it was like Bob Smith, but the book said Richard Smith. Well, third class in, like really midway through the second class, I realized this guy's just reading verbatim from his book. This is ridiculous. I'm paying all this money to go and hear this. So I showed up for the midterm, got an A, showed up for the final and got an A, but he wanted to give me a D because I wasn't in class. And I said to the dean, I'm not going to waste my time and money going for parking and things like that to go listen to somebody do an Audible book for me. So we settled on a C and I graduated college. But Wharton, like any other school, you get out what you put in, any Ivy League school. But I can assure you, my experience is that if you really truly want to learn, there's better ways to go about it than an Ivy League school. However, when I do public presentations, no one ever introduces me as a proud graduate of Camden County College. So they both were extremely useful in my past. So we have focus or lack of focus, education, prestige, but hollow prestige. Now, I kept my business going this whole time. The business literally started in my bedroom with exactly $102. And I was growing it. Actually, one of the best grades I got at Wharton was the business plan I wrote to expand the company. And so we were a private firm and we definitely had our ups and downs. And I felt, I got the concept in my mind that you have to be a warrior to be an entrepreneur. And this is slightly an offensive statement to certain people. But I don't care. Okay. So all entrepreneurs, this is something that I made up and I realized it over a period of years, that all entrepreneurs are business people, but not all business people are entrepreneurs. Just like all warriors are soldiers, but not all soldiers are warriors. To be a true entrepreneur, you have to be a warrior. Okay. I went to sleep many nights and various zeros behind them. I went to, it's a long story and I won't get into it why we used to pay people on Tuesdays, but we still, we actually kind of still do right tonight. It's Tuesday become Wednesday now just because of the way things are, but we used to pay people on Tuesdays. I can't tell you how many times I went home Friday afternoon, had no clue how I was going to meet payroll. And we never missed a payroll, but I had no clue. Sometimes it was $10,000. I think the highest one I went to sleep slightly panicking is I had to come up with $400,000 by Monday because I was about $400,000 short, you know. But when you're a warrior, you know it's going to work out because it has to work out. There is no other way. You take that hill. So that's what I learned in the private phase when the company, and we took the company privately from my bedroom with $102 to the point that we were doing 24 million, made Inc. 500 for 3 years in a row, made the Philly 100 9 years in a row with exponential growth, was rated the best management team in the state of New Jersey, beating out even major companies that you would know their names for based on our training, and a couple other cool accolades that went along with that. So in 1999, after 16 years, we went public on NASDAQ, and we went the old-fashioned way, but a new way. We went through a roll-up because we were only doing about 24 million in gross revenue, but that's not big enough to go. So we went in a roll up with 4 other companies. When you added the 5 of us together, we had combined revenues of just over $100 million. And then when I said the old fashioned way, we had marquee underwriters. We had Lehman Brothers and Montgomery Securities. We raised $44 million and grew the company. And the thing that I learned about that, the word that comes around that is share price. I was shocked at the board level how little they cared about the people and how much they cared about the share price. And I was in a board meeting one day, and it took a little guts because I was by far the youngest in this boardroom, and my cat's like meowing like crazy, had Tommaso Zinzato, who's the CEO of Hilton Hotels, was on our board. Howard Clark, the vice chairman of Lehman Brothers, was on our board, and a few other really, really awesome people that I learned so much from. But I did have the courage at one board meeting to say, do you guys really even know what we do? And because I saw us buying companies by fax and FedEx, but they really couldn't articulate the people and who was really making it happen. My role was I was a board member, I was president of the direct services division, and I was promoted to be chief operating officer of the company after that meeting. So the next thing, the next kind of word from that is people. Nothing happens without people, and share prices can absolutely go up and down through the manipulation of a board, but for the long haul, you need people. And I'm very happy to say Wall Street is very different today than it was back in 1999 and 2000. I believe it takes a much longer approach. So just a couple more words. We took the company from $11 a share to 36 a share. We took it to 35, and then there was a bump at the very end. So it's really, truly 36. And I had a lot of shares. Okay, so I can take pretty much any number you give me and multiply it by 36. So that was good. But then when we sold for pretty much all stock because NASDAQ was going crazy, blah, blah, blah. It made sense. We sold because one of our divisions wasn't going to hit their quarter. Well, after the crash of the NASDAQ in March of that year, we went from 36 to 50 cents a share. So I challenge anybody to give me any number, especially a 7-figure number, and ask me to divide it by 72. Because if you take 50 cents times 72 is $36. So I can take any number you want and divide it by 72 because my wealth went from that number to 1/72 of that. So, it was just something that happened. It really has no bearing on my life one way or another. It's what happened. There was still a nice little run up after that, and things were more than okay enough that I started a NASCAR race team. And so the word for my NASCAR race team in these years was being arrogant. And I wish I knew. Of course, everybody on this everybody listening says, "Oh, I wish I knew then what I knew now," because I had some pretty effed up values. You walked outside and you saw the Audi and the Mercedes and the race team. But honestly, I wasn't really happy with that. And those things never brought me joy, and they brought me more heartache than joy. But I kind of believed my own press. At that time, while I had the NASCAR team, which was cool, we were the first ones to bring Toyota to NASCAR and a few other things. I started a .com and really didn't know what I was doing, but I was a hot, young shot at that point in time. And so I got offered $1 million for the company. I'm like, oh, hell no, we're going to sell this thing for 10 million. And then the second time the NASDAQ dropped, that happened. So, you learn from these things and you overcome them. The final area of what I call the bad time, it was a very, very challenging time from like 2002 to about, say 10 years later. I blew through a NASCAR race team. I had a .com blow up on me. I took a bank public, but the CEO, I was the COO, the CEO and the CFO both got indicted for fraud. Thank God I didn't. I kept my thing out of that. So a lot of these things were crazy bad happening. And, you learn a lot about partnership and what you're looking for. So one day, actually, one second. Wasn't going to do this. I didn't even think to do this, but one day I'm stuck on.
Thank God you had pants on, Ed.
Oh, yeah, but they're sweatpants, I can assure you.
That's okay. I'm just glad it's covered.
Yeah. So one day I was just so frustrated. It's like, oh my God, at one point in time, I had a valuation of well over $50 million. Now I got two pennies, can't even rub two pennies together, lost my fancy cars. What's going on? I almost went to jail. People in NASCAR are pissed at me because my partner did things he wasn't supposed to do. I had another company, which I haven't even talked about, where the guy got offered 35 million for it and turned it down. And I would have got at least 10%. I would have gotten exactly 10% of that. But his arrogance kept it from moving forward. I'm like, what is wrong? What is wrong? What is not working? So I was stuck in a traffic jam on the New Jersey Turnpike in 2010. And I just grabbed a piece of paper, and I actually didn't know I was going to do this, but and you really can't see it. This is not the piece of paper. This is the blown up piece of paper. But I started to write down things like, what I'm looking for. And the number one thing was the word integrity. I'm looking to work with people that are have integrity, passion, loyalty, curiosity, enthusiastic, respectful, altruistic. And then I started taking, well, it would be really cool if you took all those letters, the first letters, like I got passion circled here, and I got respect circled. And I started to write these words out like ekopa or epikapa, just trying to say, what do we want to be? And lo and behold, we came up with Orpical. And Orpical stands for optimistic. We want to work with people who are optimistic and moving forward. R is respect. We want to maintain respect for coworkers, our team members, our vendors, our suppliers, our clients, everybody we come into contact with. Passion and passion for greatness. I have no desire for good. If you want to read one book about business, read Jim Collins' Good to Great, because good is the enemy of great. And if you're satisfied with good, you're never going to be great in anything. Next one is integrity. I spent 10 years getting screwed over. I never once blamed the person, and that would have been so easy. Okay. I mean, I lost a significant amount of money and a significant amount of hair based on other people's behavior. So I never owned the fact that it was their fault. I owned the fact that it was circumstance, and I learned from it. But I wanted to work with people that had immense integrity. The C in Orpical stands for curiosity. How do we make it better? You're not going to be a warrior in business if you're not curious. How can we make things different? Altruistic. I'm working on a book, and like the first line says, I really wanted the gold Rolex. And the whole goal is, you can still have a Rolex, you can still have a Mercedes. And quite frankly, if you're worth a few $1 billion, you can have the most expensive car on the planet, because the percent you're probably giving to do good is better than somebody giving $100 of their monthly salary, because mathematics are different. but you have to be altruistic. You have to be able to help people, because that comes back. And it's something V5O talks about, the law of reciprocity. And then the last thing is loyalty. And I think that gets to the point of, wanted to work with people of integrity, but then me not blaming those who didn't, being loyal to the process, being loyal to the people, being loyal to yourself, being loyal to your family. And I do have an experience that I know I have no idea what my time is, but I do not have the time to go into today. But loyalty cost me everything. And I don't know if I do it again, but loyalty, while it costs me everything, there's nothing I have today that I would have without that loyalty, other than my wife and my 2 children. Literally, I would not be on this call right now meeting all of you if I wasn't loyal then, because that led me to a path that brought me to Alan and Lane, which brought me here today. So those are just a few of the words. I mean, it started with, not getting into any college, through being exceptionally successful, and then believing my own press and having it all come crashing down over many years, and then defining what are the kind of the values. And, some people ask, what does Orpical stand for? And that's what we do. There you go.